Just to introduce a little bit about the project, about what Solidarity Trade is, the project that's connected with your Brazil nuts. So Sam actually helped to start the project. So she brought Jyoti, the wonderful Jyoti, who isn't here today. She brought her to the Piraçu gathering in Brazil, where Jyoti spoke to one of the Kaipo leaders and asked how we in the UK can actually help Kaipo, how we can stand in solidarity with them and everything that you are doing. So this was the beginning of Solidarity Trade Company, which I'll also call STC, just to make it a bit shorter. And Jyoti brought some of the nuts back to the UK and she gave them to Josiah, pretty much straight off the plane, I think is what happened. And that's where it all began, essentially. And what STC is about, it's about trading through friendship. So Sam, Josiah, Jyoti, and Nick, the other co-founder, they've been friends for years. They've been working together for years. And they wanted to start a new way of trade, one that's different from the way that Westerners often trade, in a way that's harmful and destructive for communities and nature. So they wanted to trade in a way that can actually change the way the world works for the forests, for people, for communities, for animals, for all beings all around the world. And to us, solidarity is about creating alliances to change the world from a place that is harmful to Indigenous peoples and nature to a place where Indigenous communities and territories can actually flourish and thrive. And as Sonia Gujarjara says, it is time for the white people to reforest their minds. And Solidarity Trade is about putting this into action. So we're recording the conversation today because the people that are buying and loving your Brazil nuts, that your community have gathered so well, they want to understand where the nuts come from. And through this understanding, more respect and loyalty can be built. But we're also having the conversation because we want to start actually building this element of friendship with you and with the Kaipo and really building a strong connection all together. So first, would you be able to introduce a bit about yourself and just say who you are and what you do for Kube?
Eu, eu me chamo Becua Caiapó, né? Aqui do sul do Pará. Eu, eu sou da etnia Caiapó. Eu morava na aldeia Cupecranque, é uma aldeia mãe. E comecei a estudar aqui, passei, já terminei o ensino médio, completei, né? E agora eu consegui trabalhar aqui na cooperativa Caiapó, né? Aqui na Associação Floresta Protegida. É muito interessante trabalhar aqui com os nossos parentes, e onde fica 42 aldeias aqui que pertencem à associação, mesmo tanto a Associação Floresta Protegida e Cooperativa Coba do Caiapó. Então, como e você está falando sobre o trabalho da castanha, e a gente vamos tocar em frente para poder explicar direitinho, né? Todo mundo vai escutar como é que é o processo, como é que eu trabalho dentro da aldeia e para vender, sei lá, para trazer para a rua, para vender, e a gente vamos conversando. Mas eu tenho 32 anos, né, de idade, eu já tenho, sou casado, tenho família, tenho meu pai, meus avós, minha avó, então é isso.
Thank you so much. And Josiah and Sam, would you be able to share a bit about what you guys do and what inspired you to start STC?
I'm happy to do that. My name's Josiah Meldrum, and I'm speaking from a part of the United Kingdom that's to the east. It's that little lump that sticks out the side, the rump of England. And I grew up about 15 or 20 kilometers from where I'm sitting now. And this is a part of the world I know really well. And I've got some slides, but they're not electronic. I've printed them. So this is my village. This is my village. Can you see this field? This is a view from my house. And this was forest once. 1,000 years ago, this was forest. And ever since I'm 50, by the way, I've got 3 children. And for my whole life, I've been very moved and deeply affected by what we've done to the world, particularly us here in the United Kingdom, and felt a kind of almost sort of desperate desire to try and do something about it, to try and fix those problems. And the realization that you can't just fix those problems is something that I've come to terms with through my life. But there are things that we can do to kind of correct for that. And I'm an ecologist by first training, and I got really interested in how food systems, what we eat every day, how it's grown, how we come by it, and the people that grow that food can change everything about the world that we live in, and can, I hope, reconnect us with the ecosystems that we in Western Europe are a part of, but that we've forgotten our position in. And that work led to us establishing a business with 3 friends called Hodmedod, which means hedgehog or snail. And I understand that the name, the Portuguese name for the Brazil nut in its pod is actually hedgehog. I don't know if that's true, but I really like that. And looking at how we could change that field to something that looks more like this. This is bringing forests back into our East Anglian fields. This is an agroforestry system producing nuts and vegetables and legumes, so these crops that feed us. And I've got a picture. This is grown a lot in East Anglia. It's a fava bean, a field bean, and we used to eat it a lot, but now we don't, and it's disappeared because it's become seen as a poor person's food. And we wanted to get people eating it again and realizing how delicious it was, but also how it could be part of a system change that would reacquaint us with the natural systems within which our food is grown. And so that's really what we've been doing for the last 10 years. And we do everything from kind of really complex intercropping. So these are beans and wheat growing in a field together, trying to mimic those ecosystems, harvesting those really messy and muddly crops together. So that's what a field which has got a really diverse set of wild and intended species growing in it. And really the aim is to create something that is much, much more diverse. So that's back to front. Diversity on the farm and in the field. And that should come through new relationships that our customers have with us, we have with our farmers, with a complete transparency, so that the people that eat the food know the people that grew the food and have a real connection with that. And we've achieved a lot by working with food growers in the UK to make that happen. And the realization when Jyoti came with those Brazil nuts was that we could perhaps make those same connections further afield, and we could begin to reach into ecosystems that we're not directly connected to. And that's why the Brazil Nut project is just so exciting to us. I'll hand over to Sam to say her piece.
Oh, that was wonderful, Josiah. I love that. I like the stick and paste presentation, by the way. Super effective. My name's Sam, and when I was 19 years old, my mum, Anita, she got invited to go to the Altamira gathering that happened in Altamira, and she got asked by this leader called David Suzuki to help fund this gathering that you know very well of. And I went there with my mum, and it was when Turi got the machete and put it against the World Bank's face. And I got to listen to Payakan. I got to listen to what the Kayapo and many different indigenous communities were saying about, the industry around Western violence in a way. And it changed my life. I had no understanding about the land grabbing and the crimes that were being committed against indigenous people. But what it woke me up as a very young teenager, it showed me that we could have a different relationship with nature. And there was a different way to live, and that was a lot more sophisticated and a lot more connected, and it really changed my life. So I started from that meeting. My mum, created a friendship with Payakan, and she started working with Payakan, and I ended up going to the villages of Puketiri and Aukri when I was really, I was like 19, 20 years old. And it kind of gave me a language. And they started working together to help build a cooperative to gather the Brazil nuts and showed the villagers the Kaiapó, how to press the Brazil nut oil, and then they started to import it. My dad used to come into the villages, and they created quite a strong trading relationship. And what my parents showed me was there was a different way to trade, and through trade that actually respect, care, and having common values, understanding that actually we all have, we all want, that we were trading with what we wanted the world to be like. And that actually who we trade with really means that we build a different type of wealth, a wealth of the people who are looking after nature, who are looking after each other. And that showed me how basically we can kind of utilize all of our energy and our thinking and our collaboration to build a different way to function. And that has informed me throughout my life. So I started really working with Indigenous communities across the world, in Canada and in Malaysia, who are all fighting for their territory. And as we know, where Indigenous peoples kind of hold their territory, life kind of proliferates, it's abundant, because so much more is protected. So it kind of has informed, that meeting at Altamira informed the way I think and how I do my work, and who actually I build relationships and friendships with, and how I believe that we can't make these changes in isolation. We actually have to make this, the changes in collaboration. So for me, one of the greatest moments in I'm 50, I think I'm 54, and I've got one kid. And when Chief Raoni came to London, and he was really worried about Bolsonaro coming, and he ended up staying at my house, and he asked me to help raise the money for the gathering in Piraçu. And that's where I helped him raise the money so they could, the gathering could occur. And that was just before the pandemic. And I invited Jyoti out there because Jyoti is very short and very powerful. And wherever Jyoti goes, things happen. She's just one of those women, those, leaders like Sonia Guajajara. She basically is a force of change. So I knew if I took Jyoti to Piraçu, I didn't know what would occur, but actually what she ended up doing was building friendships, because she's like the friendliest person you can ever meet. She's like, I call her a one-woman party. Wherever she goes, she's dancing, she's singing, she's creating friendships. And she ended up going back to Brazil, visiting the territory, your territory, and bringing back the Brazil nuts. So that's my story.
Thank you, Sam. And a little bit about me is that I kind of, in a way, have small experiences of both Josiah and Sam, and that I shared Josiah's desperation in seeing what was going on with nature from a young child. And then my mum's been working either in the environment or social justice for my whole life. And she more recently started working with the Yawanawa. And through them, I started hearing about their stories about the rubber tappers and colonization and how it affected them. And I separately fell in love with Hodmedod through my master's, and somehow all of it kind of linked together in this project, and I've started working as the coordinator for Solidarity Trade, and yeah, so that's my role. So we wanted to just ask some questions, but also first of all see if you have any questions for us to start the conversation.
Pessoal, bom dia mais uma vez, né? Eu nunca tive uma conversa tão assim, como a gente está conversando agora, realizando, né? Eu gostei da ideia de vocês. Muito boa essa fala, né? A gente vai conversando e qual assunto que é bom para nós. Como meu pai, meu avô, né? E a gente sempre tá preservando a nossa área, a gente sempre está cuidando de tudo. Onde eu moro, na aldeia Berganque, é uma aldeia mãe. É a distância que é muito longe da cidade. Porque nunca tive nenhuma ameaça com os garimpeiros, com os madeireiros, com os pescadores e demais, né? Alguma coisa que afeta a vida nossa. Mas a gente sempre está cuidando, como uma pessoa já tem um conhecimento de falar, de, que tem poder, né? E a gente sempre está protegendo, preservando. Mas nunca tive nenhuma ameaça onde tem a nossa área, tem limite, mas é por isso que a gente quer umas coisas que é bem, que vem dentro do papel, mas a gente não quer sair fora de alguma coisa que não é do papel, é difícil para nós, porque como eu sou jovens que entendem um pouco mais do que a cultura do branco, né? Eu sempre conversando com o mais velho, ó, isso não é boa, esse trabalho aqui é bom, né? Porque a gente vem lutando bastante para poder conseguir o projeto dentro da aldeia, porque agora tem turista, né? Através da associação. No ano passado teve uma visita, né? E tem outras coisas que a gente trabalha no Pomaru, na época da seca, tem castanha, tudo a gente está num ponto que é mais importante para nós. Então, como eu já tenho um papel aqui, toda pergunta que vocês vão falar, eu vou estar respondendo, beleza?
Thank you so much. And actually, one of the first questions we had was, I'm not sure if you've gone on the harvest for the Brazil nuts. Um, so first of all, could we know that because this question is relevant to that?
Eu sou, na época de madeira, né? Meu pai me colocava para estudar em Redenção, outra cidade aqui. Aí eu saí da cidade, voltei para a aldeia. Aí eu não quis voltar para a cidade. Eu fui para a aldeia, eu conheci meus colegas assim, brincando, aquele brincadeiras que fez uma fogueira, contando história do nosso avô, né? E aí eu falei assim, rapaz, eu não quero voltar mais para a cidade, porque na cidade é ruim. A clima aqui é diferente. Eu prefiro ficar aqui na aldeia, só que eu acostumei aqui dos colegas, dos amigos, né? Aí eu já venho começando a aprender história, várias histórias que meu avô me contando, né? Aí na época no tempo de castanha, aí meu avô, minha mãe me levou, comecei a aprender como é que colheita castanha, como é que pega castanha, como é que é a distância. Aí eu queria aprender, né? Eu sou coletor de castanha. Eu comecei desde pequeno e até quando eu cresci. Como eu já tenho família, não, vamos correr atrás do dinheiro, vamos correr atrás, vamos trabalhar para poder ganhar dinheiro, vamos comprar roupa, porque eu já tenho família, né? Isso que é o trabalho para a gente poder ganhar dinheiro.
Could you tell us some of the story of how it happens? Like how far do you walk and the process of actually going into the forest and collecting the nuts?
A minha aldeia tem uma aldeia, a aldeia mãe, né? Aí nós chamamos cacique, chamamos chefe do guerreiro, né? Que chama todo mundo. A gente tem que marcar um dia para ir para o Castanhal, fazer uma limpeza para fazer a casa, fazer a picada, onde tem castanhal, onde tem pé de castanha. Aí o primeiro homem vai, né? Um local onde vai fazer casa e 2, 3 dias volta para sua aldeia, aí leva a sua família para lá, para ficar lá com os homens e as mulheres, os jovens fica na casa, cuida do irmão, irmã, Aí mãe, pai, vai para o castanhal, pega a castanha. A castanha é a árvore da castanha e tem o ouriço. Esse aqui é o ouriço, ó, ouriço de castanha. Aí cai no chão e a gente pega e corta. A distância, a distância é como é, só que eu não sei medir com quanto é a distância, mas é pertinho da casa, onde tem um local, né? Tem dois locais que a gente pega castanha. Não, lá na minha aldeia é o lugar mais tem muita castanha, pé de castanha, mas a gente só pega do lugar. Lá tem teto de tira, o lugar de castanhal, lá tem muiacutira, lá tem cuclantier, lá tem iborobó, lá tem montante, quetirecrã, pijoiê. Tem vários lugares que a gente não pega castanha, mas só tem dois esse lugar, montante e quetirecrã, a gente pega castanha. Um lugar que tem muito castanhal. Lá tem serra, mas a gente desvia o serra para poder achar o pé de castanha. Mas a gente, como nós, Caiapó, como é que nós vamos medir para poder tirar os pontos? Mas tudo é normal. Não tem negócio de papel, não tem hora, não tem feriado, não tem negócio de sábado para descansar. Tudo é, sei lá, não deu para responder.
Thank you. Yeah, it makes sense. Difficult to measure when it's a normal part of your life. Um, are there any stories about the Brazil nuts, like any traditional stories that are shared um, by the elders or in the community?
Mas vou contar só uma história assim. A castanha, eu não sei se outro Mateus já sabe como é que é a história aqui. A castanha, naquela época, sei lá, no antepassado, falam que a castanha não é assim tão alto, a castanha é baixo. Só que tinha uma pessoa que chama, como é que é o nome, Mateus?
I don't remember either the name.
Aí, a castanha é baixo. Só que teve um pajé que ele é bom de tudo, né? Só que, mas é difícil contar essa história. Aí teve um problema com eles, né? Entre os parentes e tal, e ele fez um, como é que é o nome do coisa assim? Mágica, sei lá, alguma coisa assim, mágica. Só que ele fica com raiva, assim, né? Aí ele bateu o pé de, pé de castanha, assim, bater, né? Batendo, aí vai crescendo, crescendo, crescendo. Só que aquele outro cunhado dele, eles querem conhecer como é que eles estão fazendo esse trabalho, assim. O cara é bom de tudo, né? Aí o cara quer aprender, perguntando milhão de vezes, e aconteceu isso. Mas como meu avô contando essa história de a castanha é baixo, agora é alto, mas a gente gosta, eu prefiro ficar assim, baixo, né? É uma história que sei lá, se é verdadeiro ou se é de Deus, sei lá, não entendo bem, né? É uma história.
Thank you. That's so beautiful. I love that story. And yeah, I can imagine it'd be easier if it was short. Um, and actually, first, does Sam or Josiah, do you have anything that you'd want to ask about anything that Becca has said so far or add?
I actually wouldn't, I would like to know, like, how do they eat the Brazil nuts? Like, do they cook with them? What is his favorite dish, like his traditional dish with Brazil nuts? How do they regard them in their food?
A castanha tem vários tipos para comida, né? A castanha a gente caça, pega os peixes, carne, e tem uns aquele banana brava no mato, a gente mistura como se fosse arroz, só que naquela época a gente não come muito assim, muito envolvido com coisa de cubem, de vocês, né? Chama cubem, é branco, mas naquela época eu já comi uma vez a comida castanha, leite de castanha com banana brava. Não é aquele banana que é banana assim normal, mas banana brava do mato. Tem um semente igual com arroz, né? Mas é gostoso. Minha avó já fez uma vez, eu já comi. Leite de castanha, com farinha, mistura com castanha, mistura com carne, na, como é que é o nome do qui, Matheus? É tipo uma fogueira assim, de lenha com pedra e qual é o... Ah, a castanha também é bom quando você achar aquele banana verde, mistura também é bom demais. Só que a gente a gente tem que entender, nós como jovens, né? Tem que entender as coisas do passado e coisas do futuro. Para a gente tem que mostrar, né? Se realmente a gente está aprendendo ainda coisas nós, né? Só que, como eu falei, eu tenho quatro, meu avô, tem pai do meu pai, pai da minha mãe, mãe do meu pai, mãe da minha mãe, ele sempre contando histórias. Já está com mais de 70, não sei, já aposentou, né? Mas eu não sei a idade. Ele sempre vem contando história. Ela sabe fazer coisa do passado, assim, dos antigos, entendeu? Fazer eu gostei, mas eu nunca falei assim, não, eu prefiro ficar, só quero coisa do Cubem, da cidade aqui. Não. Às vezes eu chego na aldeia, às vezes eu vou entrar de férias, eu vou para a aldeia, eu vou falar para minha mãe fazer umas coisas tradicional, né? Comida tradicional, eu vou comer, eu achei muito bom. Como eu moro aqui na cidade, eu vou pedir para minha mãe, às vezes chega aqui, vem me visitar na cidade, eu vou pedir para ela fazer umas coisas assim tradicional no, no forno, tipo, fazer uma fogueira para assar frango, mistura com beirado boa, assim, é muito boa.
Thank you. And we've had such amazing responses from everyone that's been eating the Brazil nuts. You know, for myself, I used to not like Brazil nuts, and then I tried the ones harvested by the Kaipo, and I was like, okay, this is what a Brazil nut's meant to taste like, because all the other ones that I tried were always rancid. They always tasted not good. But Josiah, would you be able to share some of the feedback that people have been saying about the Brazil nuts, and any way that you've been using the Brazil nuts in your cooking?
Just to echo what you've said, I think a lot of people who thought they didn't like Brazil nuts are really enjoying the Brazil nuts. And we have a website where we sell them, and people can leave reviews. They can tell us what they've thought of them. But we also have, people phoning us up and sending us messages directly. And the reviews are just amazing. Everyone agrees that they're the best nuts they've ever eaten. I could start reading them out. There are so many of them, but they are just unbelievably well received and enjoyed. And people are doing all sorts of different things with them. So we have some recipes on our website, and I can put a link to them in the chat if you like, so you can have a look at some of them. But yeah, everything from things like grating the Brazil nuts, so like a cheese grater, but grating them and adding them to breakfasts and using them in that way, baking with them, so putting them into cakes and into biscuits, using them to make pesto. So that's a green sauce made with herbs and nuts and oil, and you blend them all together and you eat that with pasta or with rice. And that's something that Jyoti is really keen on doing. And she collects wild garlic. So these are green leaves from the woods, which she then blends with the Brazil nuts. So those are two wild harvested crops that are blended together to make this really delicious puree. But yeah, I mean, everyone has just really, really enjoyed them. And I think having them available and being able to talk to people about them has encouraged people to think about them really, really differently. So because of the origin and because of how special that is, it's made people really concentrate and focus their attention on how they're eating them and how they're using them. And I think that has really, really been really interesting. So instead of just buying a bag and just eating them, they're thinking about how they can use them in different ways.
And it'd be great to know as well, or for you to speak a bit about how the Brazil nuts actually support the Kaipo, how they're such a fundamental, or what part they play in the economy.
Bom, a castanha ele ajuda com dinheiro. É uma coisa que a gente para ajudar é vender, ganhar dinheiro e ajudar a família. A única coisa é isso.
What difficulties have you had before in actually trying to sell the Brazil nuts? Are there challenges you face there?
Sim, sim. É a dificuldade que a gente tem é a distância. A distância trazendo castanha. Só que o rio onde eu moro, no final, a gente desce, passa 3 horas para chegar no Castanhal e depois de terminar de coletar, né, para trazer para a cidade, e a gente tem muita dificuldade de trazer. Só que a distância é longe. Só que o barco também leva 45, 50 por aí. Aí a gente vem deixando. Não, 45 o saco, isso, dentro do barco, e vai o barqueiro e o ajudante, dois ajudantes, né? Aí vai descendo um dia, dorme, deixa, guarda bem guardadinho, né? E volta e trazendo, puxando. Aí chama as pessoas que trabalham aqui, né? Como eu, o Matheus, e a gente vai até a cachoeira, né? E compra e desce. Aí, tipo assim, na, naquela época eu já vendi uma vez, né? Meu pai, meu irmão, nós vem trazendo a castanha, vende lá na cachoeira e vem para a cidade, fazer uma compra, o que que a família está precisando, e faz as compras e leva. É isso que a gente sempre vem fazendo, né? Só que a aldeia onde eu moro tem um rio, se chama Riozinho, só que é estreita, né? Tem muita cachoeira, muita pedra, é perigoso de a gente trazer a castanha. Só que a dificuldade que é longe. Às vezes chove, e a gente vai sofrendo. É isso.
And have you noticed a difference with climate change? You know, it's affecting so many indigenous lands everywhere and places in the world, more strongly in some areas than others for now. Has it changed the way that you have been harvesting the Brazil nuts, or have you seen a change in the trees and the way that nature is responding?
Não, não, não.
That's good news. And before actually we moved on, I wondered if Josiah could share some of how it's been for Hodmados to sell the nuts.
Selling the nuts has been quite easy because they're delicious and everyone likes them. It's been easier than we expected, that side of it. But we'd never imported anything before, let alone something that had come from the Brazilian Amazon, a long way up a river, collected by a community of people that we hadn't met directly. And so I think that side of it has been quite complicated. The meeting with Jyoti when she returned to the UK, having been in Brazil, and eating the nuts for the first time and saying, yes, we'll do this. That was really easy. But then the sort of practical logistics have been at times quite difficult. And I think just things like customs clearance. I mean, these are boring things in lots of respects, but this is the reality of moving things around in the trading system. So getting things out of Brazil and into the UK, the time it takes, the detail that's required around all of that has been quite challenging, to say the least. And we've only imported 2 lots of Brazil nuts so far. And on both occasions, it's taken longer than we expected. And even though we'd done it once, when we did it the second time, we discovered a whole new set of challenges that we hadn't anticipated. Like they almost got kind of seized at customs in Brazil, and we didn't really understand why. And then suddenly they were released and they were on the boat, and we never really understood what had gone on. So things like that are quite difficult, quite nerve-wracking, because we know how important and valuable the nuts are, and we can't afford for them to be lost or damaged in transit. And I mean, none of this would have been possible because we're a really, really small business, and none of this would have been possible without support from Sam and various others who've helped to make this happen. And that's been really, really important. We don't have a huge amount of capacity. It's really just Nick and I that are working with the Brazil nuts, and now we have Sophia's support, which has been really helpful. But feeling that there's a really supportive community in the UK that are helping us to make this happen has been really, really important. Yeah, I mean, Sam, I don't know if you have any reflections on all of that, the sort of simple idea of saying, yes, we'll buy Brazil nuts, to the reality of actually making it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most amazing thing is you'd never done it before and you were just so willing to do it blindly. And sometimes, you know, we can't be complicated in overthinking it, and only by doing it. And watching you and Nick pull it off was like watching, you know, people who were kind of, you know, you were like magicians in it. And of course, all of the problems never seemed that we couldn't overcome it, but we did it all together. But a lot of the Brazil nuts we eat on the market are rancid. They're old. So having Brazil nuts that come not only from a community of people that we believe in, but actually also that the Brazil nuts are fresh and they're milky and they're delicious is so important. Because I think what is happening in the UK and many places around the world, the public, the people are waking up to they don't want to live in this world that's violent and that is actually using aggression. They want to support people who are doing, who are working in ways to look after nature and each other and society. So it gives the public or the people who are buying the Brazil nuts to have an opportunity to support a world they want to see and a world that they want to, invest in and believe in. And those Brazil nuts actually provide a lot of hope for people as well. And I think that is that we're managing to do something good and to save, beautiful parts of the world that are housing many animals and plants and fresh water and fresh air, and that feel safer than the world where they're buying, food that is made in ways that is destroying culture and destroying nature. So these Brazil nuts are not just about how delicious they are; it's about where they come from and actually how we're trading. And these are very traditional kind of values in a way. They're the values of my grandmother and they're the values of my father and my mother. And because in the past, you only traded with people you liked. You did business with people you had faith in. And so, now we're in a world where people trade in very, disturbing ways that poisons the earth, poisons the water, but actually is violent. Is murderous. So this is, I think, that the public are really finding ways to join in in creating new ways of kind of working together. And I think that's quite inspiring. So I do think the Brazil nuts are received as hope, I think, as well. I don't know what you think, Josiah, but I eat them with hope.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is that. And I think it's the connection as well that comes with it as well, and the feeling that although we're separated by distance, we can all hope for the same things, which is a sort of, fair incomes and ecological kind of consciousness and awareness of where the nuts have come from. And so I think when people eat them, they taste good because they are good, but they taste good because of everything else that's wrapped up in them, all of the other elements of them, the connection that we've made, where they're collected and how they're collected. That all adds to the pleasure of eating them. Because a lot of what we eat is just so anonymous. The fields that I showed at the beginning around my house, I don't know what's growing in them this year. I think it's just wheat. The farmer probably doesn't even know where that wheat is going to be sold. No one will know where it was grown when they eat it. It will be processed in a way that damages people's healths. We have this massive problem with how we come by our food, how we grow our food, and what it's turned into. And so having that little bit of light and hope in the form of a nut, where you know who's collected it, where they've collected it from, and it tastes delicious, is just such a really positive thing. And I think that is what people get really excited about. And I mean, we had never sold anything imported before, and we were unsure how people would respond to this product that really wasn't like anything else that we were selling. And the response has just been absolutely overwhelmingly positive and enthusiastic and excited.
And really that kind of leads on to the discussion of, well, part of why we actually brought this conversation together is to celebrate the friendship and the alliance, but also to actually explore what it means to be working together and the power of what we're doing. And Beku, I wondered what you feel the power is of actually working with communities abroad, how you feel that can help the Kayapo and the indigenous rights movement in general and for nature also.
Eu sou jovem que sabe falar, né? Mas eu entendo. Eu gostei de conversar com o pessoal fora do Brasil. Eu já viajei algumas vezes, né? Eu já fui a alguns lugares que não é do Brasil, mas é muito bom a gente ter essa conversa com o pessoal não é do Brasil, que a gente gosta de comer conhacá, né? Que chama estrangeiro, que ainda não é do Brasil. Eu gostei muito dessa conversa que a gente está realizando agora, né? É muito bom que a gente tem essa parceria para poder ajudar. Como é que, como é que é a nossa vivência aqui na aldeia? Como é que o pessoal vai poder ajudar? Qual é o trabalho que é muito bom para nós? Se é o trabalho que, como a gente está conversando agora, pô, mas tem que ser uma conversa para nós tá junto para trabalhar, né? Mas é isso. A minha fala é isso. Eu achei muito bom que a gente está conversando hoje.
And Sam and Josiah, would you want to share how you feel this partnership is creating power and helping create change in the world?
I think it's personally incredibly rewarding, and it feels, like a real connection, even though we haven't got that day-to-day connection that we might have with the food growers that we're working with in the UK. And I think the other thing that I just think is so interesting is that we're talking about really quite a small quantity of nuts coming to the UK, and yet they're having such a big impact in terms of the reach they're having, the people that are eating them, and the conversations they're starting. And I think that the stories that the nuts create through their presence and through the selling of the nuts is as powerful as the nuts themselves. And I think that being able to start those conversations just because we've got the nuts in our hands, it'd be a really different story, a really different proposition if we were just posting on our website about the Brazilian Amazon and deforestation and some of those issues that we are familiar with. And I think, but being able to say, well, this has come from the forest, and if we want to keep eating these foods, and if we want to be part of this relationship, then we need to keep building these friendships and these communications and these conversations. So I think as a kind of almost as a totem of the process of change that we think is so important in the food system and in the world around us, the nuts are just such a powerful kind of tool and lever. And I think yeah, it's allowed us to think in a completely different way about our day-to-day work here in the bean store, even though it's only 12 or 13 tons of nuts in total.
I think for me, I really believe nothing can happen without relationships. Everything, we're an interconnected world, interwoven, multi-species, and we're dependent on each other. But the way we hold relationship with integrity, with care, with love, with loyalty, with honesty, and recognition and respect. And for me, the world can't change unless we really do protect Indigenous territory. In fact, I think changing the world means actually standing up for Indigenous rights and the proliferation of Indigenous existence. Indigenous existence needs to flourish because there's so much knowledge that in the violence against Indigenous communities, so much knowledge is also erased. So for me, this project with Solidarity Trading with you, the Kayapo, is the beginning, because we've got Benawa Papa, we've got the Tupinamba cacao. It's very important to invest in communities, Indigenous communities around the world, and share and have like an economic trade, so the communities can determine their own future without having to depend on anyone else in the manner and in the way that they wish or you wish. And I think this is really important for the change. If we want global diversity, we need cultural diversity. We need diversity of knowledge and the way that we do things. So for me, this is the answer to the crisis, to the climate crisis, is actually, putting our feet on the ground, putting our handshaking with those that we believe in, and actually, and doing good work. So that's kind of where I think, and what's so wonderful about it is food is so delicious. It is such a pleasure and it's such a celebration. So, if you grow good food, you've got a good health. And if you've got a good health, you've got a good spirit. And all of those things are just transformational. But the people have to have the right to access that nutrition. Not everybody in the UK, especially or around the world, has the right to eat good food. So we also need to battle that, so people have the ability to be able to eat well, drink fresh water, and sleep well, because they're not subjected to, the world that we're living in. So that's the fight for me. And it's a big fight, and it's a fight that I feel very joyous about, but very committed to. And it's a fight that I got from my parents and my own family. So I believe in family and I believe in friendship, and only through that we can actually make the change.
Sam mentioned some of the fights that we're all engaged with around the world, and some of the challenges that we're being faced with so strongly right now. What do you feel are the biggest threats or things that you have to face as a people, the Kayapo people, and also to the forest?
Pelo que eu entendo, como vocês são o bem Koyaka, né? Não é do Brasil, mas as pessoas que querem que os nós Kayapó seja assim, uma vida em paz, mas tem que ajudar. Mas eu não sei como é que as pessoas ajudam para poder enfrentar a vida, né? que às vezes, cada vez mais, mas a gente nunca teve uma ameaça aqui na nossa área, aqui na terra indígena, né? Mas às vezes eu já falei eu tenho um amigo meu que mora perto da nossa limite, a gente fala, pô, aqui é nosso limite, nós não aceitamos que alguma pessoa seja entrar sem consultar a gente, sem consultar cacique, sem consultar a comunidade, mas eu vou falar em geral. Tem pessoa que querem, tipo, política, né? Falando sobre o governo. Às vezes tem um governo bom e o governo não é bom para nós, todos os povos indígenas do Brasil. Mas eu nunca tive, assim, envolvido muito, assim, em política, mas às vezes só escutando, mas comecei a entrar aqui, né? Trabalho aqui na associação, eu já venho começando a aprender como é que funciona isso, como é que a pessoa critica os povos caiapó, né, cada vez mais, como é que funciona, como é que a gente vai se defender, mas será que a gente vai precisar de algum recurso, alguma coisa assim, para a gente poder ir né, em Brasília, onde o pessoal sempre está falando de se manifestar para poder defender nossa floresta, nosso direito. Cada vez mais vem criticando, mas aqui agora eu começando a aprender, entendeu?
What do you feel is most important to the Kaya people there about your territory and your village?
Mas o que é mais importante para nós, né, da minha aldeia, para o futuro, queremos que a floresta fique em pé, o rio seja assim saudáveis. Não queremos a poluição, né? Como a gente já vem conversando, eu, meu pai, meu tio, meu avô, e a gente não quer que esse trabalho como ilícito, que não é bom para nós, porque a gente tem que manter tudo que a gente tem, né? Mas as coisas, assim, ruim, a gente não gosta. O peixe, seja assim, normal, mesmo que tá no rio, para a gente poder comer, para o futuro, a gente tem que correr atrás de algum projeto que é bom para nós, né? Como eu falei no início, a gente vem cobrando. Eu era 14 anos de idade, no 2014 a gente vem cobrando. Só que eu escutei assim, o que é projeto? O que significa projeto? Eu não sei o que é projeto. Aí nós vem cobrando. Primeiro a pessoa entrou, turista, né? O pessoal ficou muito feliz, fazendo festa, recebendo turista, conhecer como é que funciona, né? Como a gente, uma pessoa que mora na aldeia, que nós já tem envolvido com o bem aqui da cidade, já é acostumado, mas a pessoa, as crianças, às vezes, às vezes vê o branco aí e fica assim, meio estranho, com medo, entendeu? Chora. É por isso a gente quer a floresta, o rio, os animais, seja assim, igual como está hoje.
And earlier you said about how the younger generation is learning more about the white man's culture and Western culture, and how they speak to their elders about the two different cultures. And I wondered how you feel this is affecting the Kayapo, the community, what changes you've been seeing.
Falei, né? Nós, jovens, só que tem uma pessoa que eu vou falar da minha aldeia. Eu já fiquei aqui 2 anos, 3 anos, só que eu já tenho família, aí eu falei, não, vou ter que correr atrás do emprego para poder ajudar você, se você tem que estudar, né? Eu já terminei, já completei o ensino médio, agora você tem que estudar. Só que agora eu estou trabalhando para sustentar vocês. Você tem que aprender o mundo do branco, mas não pode aprender só as coisas da cidade. Você tem que aprender de dois. Aprender as coisas do banco e aprender as coisas da nossa cultura, da nossa tradição. Bom, e tem um colega, tem o primo, só que eu falei para ele, aproveite esse tempo para poder estudar. Só que ele não quer estudar. Ele não quer aprender coisa do Cuben. Eu não sei por quê. Beleza. A pessoa da minha aldeia vem para a cidade. Ele não quer ficar fica muito tempo aqui na cidade. Eles querem vir aqui comprar, só quer voltar para a aldeia. Beleza, mas como eu já morei aqui 2 anos, e já me envolvi, e já aprendi um monte de coisa aqui, né? Para poder falar, tipo, algum projeto, alguma coisa da comunidade, alguma coisa da aldeia, para poder, ó, tá falando isso está acontecendo, isso está acontecendo. Alguma notícia, como nós acabou de falar, sobre político, né, que estão fazendo isso, que tem fazendo, falando alguma notícia e tal. E aí, para isso, a gente tem que entender coisa da cidade e coisa da aldeia. Tipo assim, canto, eu sei cantar, eu sei falar a língua taiapó, eu sei contar história, eu sei pintar aqui na da aldeia. Tipo assim, por que que eu estou usando a fantasia do Cuben? Só que eu venho trabalhar. Mas final de semana eu vou me pintar, eu vou me pintar meu rosto, eu vou ter que sair, eu vou mostrar minha cultura, né? É isso, mas a pessoa não é todo mundo que está aproximando só do coisa do Cuben, não, mas às vezes as mulheres vai para a escola, vai rapar o cabelo, vai passar o urucu, vai para a escola, vai mostrar sua cultura aqui na cidade, tudo que está acontecendo, mas ninguém está querendo virar assim, mas não vai conseguir. Só aprende a falar português, né? E caiapó. São as duas línguas que a gente vamos aprender, português e caiapó.
Yeah, it's interesting you being the bridge really between those two cultures by living in the city. And I wondered, by seeing the life of the city, what you feel, having become more familiar now with the white man's world through the city and seeing how they live, um, what you feel the white man can learn from the Kayapo. What is the biggest lesson we could receive from the Kayapo's way of life and the wisdom that is carried there?
Bom, é que é muito importante, às vezes tem que ficar aqui, né, para poder ouvir, como eu falei, alguma notícia sobre alguma informação sobre político, né, sobre projetos. Só que não é que a gente, não é que agora, nesse momento, toda aldeia tem internet. Só que às vezes a internet, quando o tempo está nublado, meio fraco, assim, não dá para comunicar diretamente com o pessoal, né? Tipo assim, Assistência Florestal Protegida, FUNAI, pessoa da CESARES, mas eu estou trabalhando aqui agora, mas às vezes meu pai vai ligar diretamente para mim, falando se tem alguma coisa para poder falar com o Palmeira e tal. É para isso a gente tem que ficar aqui. É para isso a gente tem que estudar, para passar informação, essas coisas que a gente está querendo comunicar para a sua aldeia. Eu estou trabalhando aqui, eu não ficar falando direto só da minha aldeia. Eu estou trabalhando em geral, trabalhando para todas as aldeias. Hoje em dia a gente estamos conversando aqui, como é que a gente vai fazer? Vamos escutar tudinho que nós estamos conversando e a gente vai compartilhar com outra pessoa que está no WhatsApp, né, no grupo. É para isso que a gente tem que poder estudar, aprender coisa de vocês, para ajudar. Não é só para mim, é para ajudar o nosso povo.
We're nearing the end of the conversation in our time, but I wondered if Sam and Josiah had any questions or sharings that they wanted to add.
Just want to say thank you so much. It's been so enjoyable being in this conversation, and I would love if we did it again and, you know, built a relationship and had chats and conversations so we can start to learn off each other as well. That would be really great. And I think that, you know, spending time with each other, even if it's on the internet, well, maybe we'll all come out and visit at some point, but I do have one last question. Sorry, Matthias, because I know Matthias, who's translating, has been working really hard. So I'm going to apologize for my one last question. The one last question I'm curious about is traditionally, what are considered the health benefits? Do they have any medicinal properties, the Brazil nuts? And then that's my question. But otherwise, I really enjoyed meeting you, and thank you so much.
Pelo que eu sei, já foi feito para mim, para alergia, né? Quando vai queimar castanha, e pode passar assim, passar no corpo assim e tal, e para sair, como é que fala, Matheus? Espírito, né? Aí eu vou ter que passar aqui, quando você queima, passar aqui, para poder forte, são dois tipos, para alergia e para e outras coisas. Ah, eu queria responder só a senhora falando aqui, né? Quando eu era menino, assim, de não sei quantos anos de idade, eu já vim aprendendo a luta do Paekano. Só que naquela época só tem um representante, que representa todas as aldeias. Não é todas naquela época, só tinha 4 aldeias. Gorotira, minha aldeia, Kubekranquei, Cocraimoro. Naquela época, eu gostei da história da senhora aqui, mas tem 4 aldeias. 4 aldeias, só que só tem um representante.
Sim.
Naquela época não tem WhatsApp. Naquela época só tem rádio de comunicação.
Só o rádio.
Só rádio.
Because he's saying that time has only 4 villages. Aucre, but I will begin for the first. Kubenkankre, it is the Bekua village, is the most ancient, the beginning of everything came for there, Kubenkankre. After Aucre, which is the village that Sam came from, and Moicaracô, and the least, I believe, Cocraimoro, these 4 villages. And but what I see, because like your history very much, Sam, what you say about Paecan and the meeting. Becua, ela foi aquela moça que veio para Body Shop naquele tempo, daquela família.
Eu já vi o vídeo. Eu tenho um vídeo do Body Shop, mas é muito bom tirar óleo da castanha. Tá, uma pergunta. Por que isso não está acontecendo mais para nós, na geração new?
When my parents were no longer a part of the Body Shop, that got closed down by the people who owned it. And so for me, when I met up with Raoni, and it was closed down by other people, it wasn't closed down by my parents, but also there was a big incident that happened that I don't know much about. But so the new company just stopped. They had many projects that they had around the world with many different indigenous communities who were supplying raw ingredients. And a lot of them when my parents were no longer a part of the company, they basically stopped doing a lot of those projects, and it was very upsetting to my family, and particularly to me too. So when we established this relationship, again, through Solidarity Trading, it was like such a joyous experience for me. It was like coming home. It was like something that I felt very good about. And it was, I had a lot of sense of like duty in a way. And it healed something, because I was always very sad about that, the severing of that tie. So for me, reestablishing this new relationship is equally as important, and establishing that. And me being an adult now, because that started when I was a child, shows that actually the influence that the Kayapo had on me and my own imagination and my own philosophy and has left a profound impact. It changed the way I, going to the villages and meeting Payakan and listening to them talk, and that for me was my education. It was much better than the education I got in school. It was the education that has defined my life. And so I feel very grateful and happy that we're starting this alliance again. And I can tell you it means a lot to me personally, and also to my dad. I don't know if you know, but my dad speaks Kayapo. He learned Kayapo when he came to the villages. Yeah, and I've got whole dictionaries of Kayapo, because he taught people. There was very strong friendships. He used to go hunting, and he used to get teased a lot, and so he has very strong memories around that. And he was also very sad about the not being involved. And he's not. I'm sure he would come out to Brazil, but he's not very well anymore. So he lives through me. Really, he's very happy that I've reestablished this relationship through Jyoti and Josiah, and the great thing is I've got as much faith in a way in Jyoti and Josiah and what they do and the work they do, and it's like joining with people who it's like having a family, really. Family of thinkers and doers. I won't say anything else, because it could go on. Poor you, Mateus. We can have other conversations. This is just the first conversation.
I'm so sorry. I know that Bekoa is the core of the meeting, but I only want to say that it's amazing that your father is speaking Kayapo. It's very hard to learn.
I didn't learn, by the way.
I begin to learn some phrase. I can say some daily basis, but it's very hard. Congratulations to him. It's like incredible.
And Josiah, did you want to add anything?
Guess I haven't really got any more questions, but just to say what a privilege this conversation has been, and something that we've looked forward to for a long time. And it feels like as Sam said, like a fantastic start to an ongoing conversation. And I feel like I've learned so much just in this short conversation that we've had. A huge thanks for the translation as well, Mateus. That is not an easy thing to do, and I'm sure you're very tired. And I've just learned a lot about Sam as well. That was so interesting, Sam. What a good question to be asked. Why haven't we ever asked you that question? So thank you, everyone. It's just been a real pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much. And this is the first time, Bekoa, that I've kind of led a conversation. So thank you for the patience of maybe the beginning of not asking questions so clearly, trying to navigate the conversation. But I appreciate everyone's patience with that. And I'm so grateful to have learned so much from each of you. And yeah, it feels like the start of something that hopefully we can just keep deepening and evolving and coming together in a way that's organic, creating conversations that are just can flow as well. And Mateus, thank you so much for your amazing translation. And Mateus Costa as well for your presence. And then to close, if Bekoa, if you want to add anything, if you did want to tell a story or just whatever you want to share for the closing, and just full gratitude to everyone here. and Emma for hosting.
Eu gostei da conversa que a gente está conversando agora, né? Essa ideia que a gente está construindo. E eu agradeço a cada um de vocês de coração. Espero que a gente volte um outro dia para conversar de novo, né? Estou à disposição para conversar, explicar, falar alguma coisa. E queria dizer também, eu nunca tive uma conversa com um pessoal aqui do fora do Brasil. Eu achei muito bom. Eu já tenho vários amigos do Brasil, mas fora do Brasil, mas a minha mãe e meu pai adotou como se fosse filho, né, de sangue, mas é muito bom quando as pessoas fora do Brasil que é bom conversar, mas a linguagem nossa, eu vou contar aqui, a linguagem nossa, como o Mateus que entende as coisas de português e inglês, ele já sabe falar, né, o som que nós falamos, mas teve um branco, PKK, que foi na aldeia, logo falou bom dia, boa tarde, bom, logo ele já aprendeu. Não é que está estudando, mas ele escuta, ele ouve, né? Logo ele já sabe falar. Mas assim que eu conseguir alguma história da castanha, eu vou falar para o Matheus, ou nós vamos falar, como a gente já tem grupo aí, eu vou estar conversando, falando a linguagem português, bom dia, boa tarde, para vocês aprenderem.
I do know one word in Kaipo. Microme.
What does it mean, Sam?
That's how I feel about the conversation. So that was a good word to close on. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Bekua, for sharing and really for your presence, for coming today. Thank you.
And when you are coming here,
Yeah, we are coming. We'll tell you when we're coming.
we are waiting for. It was a pleasure.